Well, welcome to another edition of the Higher Education Leadership Series. I'm Dr. Anthony Edwards, and I'm an assistant professor of educational leadership here at Tarleton State University. And today I am joined by Dr. Reginald Lewis, and he is the assistant vice president for external operations here at Tarleton State University. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Edwards.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm going to ask you kind of the standard question of what do you do now? And then kind of what roles that you have that got you here.
Sure. Well, my current position is the Assistant Vice President for External Relations, based out of the Fort Worth campus here, but oversee operations at the Waco, the Fort Worth campus, also in Bryan, and also our online offering as well, Tarleton Online, which you are very familiar with. And so what we're trying to do in external relations is create an environment where students don't necessarily have to attend the Stephenville campus, and give them options, but also we want to create that sense of belonging for those students as well. So we're having conversations about what that looks like. How do we integrate those students and make sure that they fit in the community, overall community?
Very nice, very nice. So in terms of that, I know you transitioned into this role from another role at Tarleton, and then you transitioned from Tarleton from a role at a community college. Could you talk a little bit about kind of your journey to how you got there?
Sure. Well, prior to my current position, I was the AVP for university marketing here at Tarleton. So had an opportunity to manage a budget and do a lot of external marketing, not so much internal communication, maybe some newsletters, updating faculty and maybe some students on some things happening, some of the larger things, but doing a lot of media buys, doing some digital campaigns. So that's what we use a lot of the budget for, is to help with building that awareness with prospective students, their families, as well as business and industry, so they could see us as a viable partner for some of those business partnerships, but then also to hire our graduates. I mean, the goal is to ultimately have those positions ready and waiting for our graduates once they leave Stephenville or one of our outreach locations. And prior to joining Tarleton, I worked for 7 years over at Tarrant County College, where I was in the communications PR and marketing office. And same situation there. Most of the marketing that I handled was external facing. So a lot of radio ads, media buys, to increase awareness about not only the different campuses within TCC, but then also some of the programming, especially on the career and technical education side, and some of the pathways that we have with some of our four-year partners, so folks could go from an associate degree to bachelor's degrees, and then also some certifications as well for individuals interested in reskilling or upskilling.
Very nice. So, in terms of your role as a leader, I mean, I know you're a strategy leader for some of the things that we're doing at Tarleton, and we have goals as a division within external operations. How do you prioritize? What you're trying to figure out. Okay, how do we achieve this? Wildly important goal, and what are the things that we as a team have to do, and how do you kind of bring people together to try to achieve that goal?
Sure. So just to give you a little context, my professional background is more on the PR and marketing side, and I work with a lot of consumer brands, introduced some brands to the U.S. as well, product launches, things of that nature. So that's the lens that I use when it comes to strategic planning. When we have a goal right now, enrollment goal to achieve 7,000 students by 2025, I'm always using that lens, right? Looking at value proposition, looking at how an individual will engage with our messaging, and so that's the lens that I typically use And so when I start to prioritize, different strategy development, that's what I first look at is identify who the intended audience is. But once we have that audience, then we look at the different communication channels, the different tools that we can use in order to engage those individuals, and then we disseminate and execute the plan. But then also we have to measure the success, create those key performance indicators to see, how do we measure success? Is it increasing enrollment by 3% in a given quarter, or maybe 10%? What does that look like? And then we measure it. And then we make adjustments in order to increase that growth, for example. So it's really about designing the plan, executing the plan, and measuring and looking at those analytics to ensure that you're on pace for success. And if not, you make the necessary adjustments. Oh, sorry, Doctor. I lost your voice here.
Thank you. I think it's a good transition. You talked a little bit about communication channels. So can you talk a little bit about both kind of internal and external communication? Obviously how you communicate as a marketer, but also how do you communicate across the university to get your goals accomplished?
Sure. So, I'm new to this role and in external operations. So, communicating across the university looks a little bit different in this role compared to my marketing and communications role when I was the AVP in that particular office. There we had, once, whether it was an email, it was a newsletter communication, or it could be a digital flyer, something of that nature, that had 100% buy-in, once it came from the office, because it was university marketing. Some of the challenges that I see that, here in external operations is that sometimes the communication, send the same communication, for example, here's a calendar of our homecoming events. And so when that's disseminated across the university, there may or may not be the same type of buy-in from some of the internal stakeholders. And so, when we start looking at the analytics as far as, open rates, the numbers may be a little bit lower here. So we have to increase the frequency in order to get people to engage with that messaging, get some RSVPs. But we try to have stronger calls to action in this particular office. But in addition to the, emails, we had several different types of emails. For example, when I was in Marcom, we actually had something that was entitled At Tarleton State. So that came out once a week on Mondays, and had some key events happening around the university, athletic events as well. Information about tickets to the theater, the arts on campus. But it kept people engaged, and so people wanted to just know exactly what was occurring across the campus, and they use it as an effective tool. And we're trying to replicate that here in external operations, where we have different emails that go out to staff and faculty and students for Tarleton Online, for example, which you do a great job on. As well as some other, we try to do them for, design one for Waco Bryan, and then we have one for the Fort Worth campus as well, to share information with, internal stakeholders to, just one, make sure that they're aware of what's happening. And then two, then hopefully we can get some collaboration, maybe even some cost sharing on some things to make it, make it larger, and share that information with external stakeholders, such as high school students, prospective graduate students, individuals looking for a graduate degree. So if we can make it more robust and have more activity at our external locations, then I think we could see an increase in enrollment, engagement, and just overall just increased brand equity. We want to be top of mind with a lot of individuals, especially here in the Metroplex, where we're the only 4-year public institution in the city.
So, one thing I will say is you're always you're focused on your goal, but I will also say you figure out that sometimes the goal has to come with a budget. Like you might want us to go out and get 7,000 students, but you're like, I can't do that for free. I need the commitment ongoing, not just right now. I'm gonna need the long-term commitment for funds to do that. And you're very good about communicating that message to stakeholders. Can you talk about kind of, because obviously you've had to manage finance and budgets for marketing campaigns and things like that, but kind of where you've got that mindset from?
Wow, it started early, because in my professional career, I started working in the arts and entertainment world. Like we all know that sometimes the budgets are a little a lot of smoke and mirrors with some of the budgets in the arts and entertainment world. But I would say when my firm helped launch Cirque du Soleil in the U.S. They were well known in Canada, but at that time I had to learn how to. I begged journalists and celebrities to attend a VIP event, but what they did was they realized that it came with the price tag, and so our budget was a little over $2 million in order to make things work in New York City. And so at that time, team brainstormed. We started to allocate certain dollar amounts to certain initiatives, and that's how I learned very early on how to budget, how to create, create those opportunities where if we doubled the budget in one area and saw some success, then you could maybe replicate that in another area. And so just learning that on the fly early on in my PR career enabled me to develop a sense of fiscal responsibility, and also just the overall need for budget. I'm always requesting money. There's so many adages out there. You have champagne taste with beer budget, right? And that's simplifying it, but it really does apply. I mean, a lot of people want market share. They want to increase sales. They want to increase enrollment, but they don't want to put the money behind it. And it's very difficult because especially in today's world, where at one point, you had to touch an individual, in some way, at least 3 times. That was kind of the rule many moons ago. Now you really have to, you have to engage people multiple times in different formats. So, if that's going to be, digital ads, or, there may be Google ads, and then we have to retarget individuals as they're navigating other websites. It could be a newspaper, magazine, print ad. It could be a billboard. It could be an email with coupon or some sort of call to action or some sort of incentive. You have to engage people in using multiple formats, and that requires money. So emails are not simple to make. You still need software in order to create that, a platform that can disseminate that email. Obviously, doing your media buys is going to cost something, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. When if TCU said, what, just for this demographic, we're going to cut tuition in half. I mean, they'd see a huge increase in applications and registries. So we have to compete with, people that have bigger budgets and are committed to spending the money and allowing the campaigns to actually you know, to build, to be executed, and to um, germinate, really. I was on a call earlier today with the vendor, and they said one of our, system schools, we were going after the same tool, and they had committed $325,000 to this particular tool. Counter that with, I got approved for 15,000. So it's hard to achieve the certain levels, the same levels of success, when there isn't a commitment from the financial side, and then I'm sure at some point I'm going to hear, well, you know what, they increased by, 25%, 25%, in just 6 months. Well, there was a financial commitment. And so I'm always advocating for more money. More is better, because it allows more flexibility. Especially if a campaign isn't working, then you can reallocate that money in another area. But if it is successful, how do we continue that success and move the needle? So I'm always going to advocate for bigger budgets. Sometimes people hesitate to support my request, but I'm going to keep asking.
Well, I think as a leader, I think you have to be a broken record, because, like you said, the old adage is, you got to, they have to see it 3 times, or, I've seen 7. I mean, I think that also goes for internal communication as well. So, I mean, if you can tell somebody one time and they may not hear you, but after the 10th time you've asked them, maybe I guess maybe this is something we need to consider. So,
Yes.
so I completely agree with you. Um, is there anything that we haven't discussed that, in terms of your experience with higher education leadership, that you'd like to share with us?
Sure. I mean, just for individuals looking to for a career in marketing, and if they don't have a wealth of experience in higher education, maybe they worked consumer products, or healthcare or some other area. That's okay, because leveraging your skill set, and using that lens, I mean, that's great. That brings the diversity of thought. When it comes to marketing, is very important, because individuals coming from outside of the industry sometimes make the better marketers, because they're not bound by tradition. They're not bound by those particular those silos that you may find in higher ed marketing. But overall leadership, just working with individuals, making sure that you all have a common goal. Each area may have different KPIs, but as long as they ultimately align with the overall strategic goal, then you should be able to achieve some success. But if you have different skill sets, leverage those in higher ed leadership, because more and more, especially university and community college presidents, are coming outside of the higher ed realm, and they may come from the business community, because ultimately it's all about acquiring a customer and serving that customer, even beyond graduation. Making sure that a student turns into an engaged alum. That's important. It shouldn't. The communication should not stop once they cross the stage. And so, as long as individuals can push the envelope and just be forward thinking, especially in higher ed leadership, it will serve the institution well. And it's required, because they're just, especially for brick and mortar institutions, there's so much competition from the online space. And for a place like Tarleton, we really have to be creative and think outside the box to ensure that we have a market share. We're serving the students that we have. But again, if we can convert, so if some of those alums are, if they have kids, and they can share their experience with their kids, or people they come in contact with on their jobs, Word of mouth marketing works as it works too, right? So and we can maybe convert some of those individuals into some brand new students, and continue to do so, and create, instead of just family legacy, but maybe even workplace legacy. Where you may have a team of individuals who come through Tarleton for one reason or another, certification, could be a graduate degree, undergraduate degree. But we want to make sure that we're spreading the word and building brand awareness with everyone possible.
Outstanding, outstanding. I wouldn't have expected anything less from you. It's been a pleasure, Dr. Lewis. I've enjoyed talking with you. I want to talk with you a little bit offline just a minute here, but thank you so much for joining us for this edition of our Higher Education Leadership Series. This has been Dr. Reginald Lewis, AVP of External Operations, and this is Dr. Edwards signing out, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Take care, Dr. Lewis.
Yeah.